To our amazing viewers at Cheating Tales Lab, we'd love to hear, which part of the world are you joining us from? Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Perfect Lie. Gregory Reeves learned to read people during his 8 years in military intelligence. Body language, micro-expressions, the subtle tells that separated truth from deception. These were his tools long before he transitioned to cybersecurity consulting. So when his 4-year-old daughter Emma started coughing violently at dinner that Tuesday evening, choking on something she'd found under the couch, he noticed immediately how his wife Candace's face drained of color before she even moved to help. Emma. Candace lunged forward, her hands shaking as she grabbed their daughter. Gregory was faster. He swept Emma up, performing the Heimlich maneuver for small children he'd learned in a parenting class. After 3 compressions, Emma coughed, but nothing came out. She was breathing, but something had gone down. "What did you swallow, sweetie?" Gregory asked, keeping his voice calm despite his racing heart. Emma's blue eyes were wide with tears. "The pretty thing. The shiny butterfly." Gregory's gaze snapped to Candace. "What butterfly? We don't have any butterfly jewelry in the house." I don't know what she's talking about." Candace wouldn't meet his eyes. "Maybe from daycare?" "We need to take her to the ER," Gregory said, already grabbing his keys. Now, the drive to St. Mary's Hospital took 12 minutes. Gregory drove while Candace sat in the back with Emma, who seemed fine now but complained her throat hurt. Through the rearview mirror, Gregory watched his wife. In their 6 years of marriage, he'd seen Candace nervous before, during her father Wendell Meadows' intense business dinners, when her brother Sergio showed up drunk and belligerent. But this was different. This was fear. At the hospital, the ER doctor ordered an X-ray. The image showed a small metal object lodged in Emma's esophagus, not blocking her airway, but positioned where it could cause damage. "We'll need to do an endoscopy to retrieve it," Dr. Alexander Duke explained. He was in his late 50s, professional, with silver hair and steady hands. "It's a routine procedure. She'll be under light sedation. We'll have it out in 30 minutes. Gregory held Emma's hand as they prepped her. "You're going to take a little nap, princess. When you wake up, that thing won't hurt anymore." "Will I get a sticker?" Emma asked. "You'll get all the stickers," Gregory promised. As the nurses wheeled Emma to the procedure room, Gregory noticed Candace step outside to make a phone call. He followed, staying just out of sight. "Daddy, it happened," she whispered urgently. Emma swallowed it. "Yes, they're doing the procedure now." "I don't know. It was in my jewelry box. She must have gotten into it." "What do you want me to do?" Gregory's jaw tightened. He stepped around the corner. "Who are you calling?" Candace jumped, nearly dropping her phone. "My father. He wanted an update on Emma." "Your father has never called to check on Emma in 4 years," Gregory said quietly. "Try again." Before Candace could answer, a nurse appeared. "Mr. and Mrs. Reeves? You can observe the procedure on the monitor if you'd like." They followed her to a small observation room, where a screen showed the endoscope's camera feed. Dr. Duke's voice came through a speaker, calm and methodical as he guided the scope down Emma's throat. Gregory watched the pink walls of his daughter's esophagus appear on screen, then the scope moved toward the metal object. "There it is," Dr. Duke murmured. "Let me just—" The scope's light illuminated the object clearly. It was a butterfly pendant, delicate gold wings with small diamond accents. But that wasn't what made Dr. Duke freeze. As he adjusted the angle, the light caught an engraving on the back. "To Julie, forever yours." "This is impossible." Dr. Duke's voice came through the speaker, shaky now. "What I'm seeing inside her." He manipulated the scope to get a clearer image, then suddenly switched it off. Through the observation window, Gregory saw the doctor pull back, his face pale. Dr. Duke looked toward the observation room, made eye contact with Gregory and Candace, then gestured for someone off camera. A nurse brought the monitor back on. Dr. Duke held up the retrieved pendant with forceps, showing it to the camera. "I need to speak with you both immediately." In the consultation room, Dr. Duke placed the pendant on a sterile tray between them. His hand trembled slightly. "Do either of you recognize this?" he asked. Gregory picked it up, examining the inscription. "I've never seen it before." "Candace." His wife's hand started shaking. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Dr. Duke pulled out his phone, showed them a news article from 3 years ago. The headline read, "Local teacher Julie Morrison missing. Family offers reward." Below it was a photo of a young woman with auburn hair, smiling at the camera. She wore a gold butterfly pendant. This was Julie Morrison's signature piece of jewelry, Dr. Duke said. I know because she was my neighbor. I gave her this pendant for her 25th birthday, 2 months before she vanished. It was custom-made, one of a kind. The police listed it as missing along with her. Gregory felt ice water fill his veins. He looked at Candace. How did this get in our house? I can explain, Candace started, but Dr. Duke was already reaching for the phone. I'm calling security and the police. This is evidence in an open missing persons investigation. Candace's face turned pale. Please, you don't understand. My father. Your father what? Gregory's voice was steel. The door opened. 2 security guards entered, followed within minutes by Detective Kelvin Ray, who Gregory learned had been working Julie Morrison's case for 3 years. Detective Ray was a sharp-eyed man in his 40s, with the weary look of someone who'd seen too many cases go cold. He photographed the pendant from every angle, then turned to Candace. Mrs. Reeves, I need you to tell me how you came to possess Julie Morrison's necklace. Candace looked at Gregory, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to know. I never wanted Emma to. Start talking, Gregory said. Now. Chapter 2, The Meadows Family Secret. Candace sat in the hospital conference room, flanked by Detective Ray and a police officer, while Gregory stood against the wall, arms crossed, watching his wife of 6 years become a stranger. My father gave it to me, Candace began, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 years ago, right after that woman went missing. He told me to hide it, said it was important that no one ever found it. And you didn't question why your father had a missing woman's jewelry? Detective Ray asked. I questioned everything. Candace's voice cracked. But you don't understand what my family is like. My father, Wendell Meadows, when he tells you to do something, you do it. When he tells you to forget something, you forget it. That's how it's always been. Gregory remembered meeting Wendell Meadows for the first time. The man owned half the commercial real estate in the city, sat on every important board, had judges and city councilmen at his annual Christmas party. He'd made it clear he thought Gregory, a military grunt turned computer security consultant, wasn't good enough for his daughter. So you kept evidence in a murder investigation hidden for 3 years, Detective Ray said. That makes you an accessory after the fact. Murder? Candace's eyes went wide. Nobody said anything about murder. My father said. He said it was just business, that the woman had been paid to leave town, that the necklace was left behind by mistake. Julie Morrison didn't leave town, Detective Ray said flatly. Her car was found abandoned at a rest stop. Her bank accounts haven't been touched. Her family hasn't heard from her. And now we know your father has her personal jewelry. What do you think that means? Candace put her face in her hands and sobbed. Gregory felt a strange calm settle over him. The same calm he'd felt in Kandahar when his unit was ambushed, when chaos erupted and training took over. He walked to Detective Ray, keeping his voice low. I need to know everything about Julie Morrison. Everything about her connection to Wendell Meadows. Detective Ray studied him. You were military intelligence, right? I ran your name when I got here. 8 years. I know how to find people. I know how to find information. Gregory glanced at Candace. And I know when someone's lying by omission. My wife isn't telling us everything. Mr. Reeves, this is a police investigation. My 4-year-old daughter just swallowed evidence that could bring down one of the most powerful men in the city. You think Wendell Meadows is going to let that slide? Gregory's eyes hardened. He'll have lawyers here within the hour. He'll have this evidence suppressed, witnesses intimidated, and my family threatened. I've seen how men like him operate. Detective Ray was quiet for a moment. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we have a very small window before the walls close in. I can help you. I have access to Meadows' properties through my security consulting work. His company hired my firm 2 years ago to upgrade their systems. I know their network, their protocols. That sounds dangerously close to illegal surveillance. I'm offering to cooperate with a police investigation, Gregory said carefully, to provide technical expertise. Pro bono. Before Detective Ray could respond, Candace spoke up. Greg, please. You can't go after my father. You don't know what he's capable of. Gregory turned to his wife. How did Julie Morrison know your father? She was Sergio's girlfriend. The name hit Gregory like a punch. Sergio Meadows, Candace's older brother. Gregory had met him a handful of times at family events, a violent drunk with dead eyes and their father's sense of entitlement. He'd been arrested twice for assault. Charges mysteriously dropped both times. Sergio was dating Julie Morrison? Detective Ray leaned forward. For about 6 months. She was a teacher at Riverside Elementary. Sweet, kind, too good for him. Candace wiped her eyes. Sergio brought her to family dinners. My father hated her, said she was beneath our family. Then one day, Sergio showed up with a black eye and split lip. Said Julie was gone, that she'd left him. A week later, my father gave me the necklace and told me to hide it. Did Sergio kill her? Gregory asked. I don't know. I swear I don't know. Candace's voice rose. But my father, he's protected Sergio from everything his whole life. Every crime, every mistake. If Sergio did something to Julie, Daddy would cover it up. He'd make it disappear. And you helped him, Gregory said coldly. I was scared. You don't understand. The door burst open. A man in an expensive suit strode in, followed by 2 more lawyers. This interview is over. Mrs. Reeves will not be answering any more questions without legal counsel present. Behind them came Wendell Meadows himself. 72 years old, silver-haired, with the kind of presence that commanded rooms. His eyes found Candace first, then Gregory, then settled on Detective Ray with barely concealed contempt. Detective, I'll be filing a complaint about this harassment of my daughter during a family medical emergency. Any further communication should go through my attorneys. Mr. Meadows, we have evidence. You have a piece of jewelry that could have come from anywhere. My granddaughter is a child who picks up shiny objects. This proves nothing. Wendell turned to Gregory. I'm disappointed in you, Gregory. Using your daughter's accident to create drama against your wife's family. Gregory held Wendell's gaze. Someone needs to speak for Julie Morrison, since she can't speak for herself anymore. Something flickered in Wendell's eyes. Anger, calculation, threat, all there and gone in an instant. Be very careful, son. You're playing a game you don't understand. I'm a quick learner. Wendell smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Candace, let's go. We're taking Emma home when she's cleared. Gregory, I assume you'll be staying at a hotel tonight. My daughter needs space from this accusatory hostility. Emma is my daughter, Gregory said quietly. She goes nowhere without me. We'll let the courts decide that, one of the lawyers said. We'll be filing for emergency custody given your erratic behavior and attempts to involve the family in a baseless investigation. Gregory felt rage building but kept his expression neutral. This was the play he'd expected. Separate him from Emma. Isolate Candace. Control the narrative. Detective Ray stepped forward. The pendant is evidence. It's not leaving this hospital. Then I suggest you get a warrant for it, the lead lawyer said. Otherwise, it's the property of a 4-year-old child who happened to find something pretty. You're free to photograph it, but you'll need a court order to seize it. Legal maneuvering would take days, Gregory knew. Days Wendell would use to disappear evidence, pressure witnesses, build his defense. The system wouldn't move fast enough. After 20 minutes of legal back and forth, Emma was cleared to leave. Gregory watched helplessly as Candace carried their daughter out, surrounded by lawyers and security. Emma looked back at him, confused. Daddy, I'll see you soon, Princess, Gregory called out. I promise. When they were gone, Detective Ray turned to him. They're going to bury this. Wendell Meadows has judges in his pocket. That pendant will disappear into an evidence locker and the case will go nowhere. Not if we move faster than they expect, Gregory said. I need everything you have on Julie Morrison. Every detail, every witness statement, every lead you couldn't pursue. Why should I trust you? Because you've been working this case for 3 years and getting nowhere. Because Wendell Meadows has been untouchable your entire career. And because I have something you don't. What's that? Nothing left to lose, Gregory said. And a very specific skill set. Detective Ray studied him for a long moment. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Meet me there in an hour. And Gregory? What we're about to do, it can't be official. If this goes wrong, I can't protect you. I don't need protection, Gregory said. I need justice. Chapter 3, The First Thread. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and decades of fried food. Gregory sat in a back booth, a laptop open in front of him, while Detective Ray spread out 3 years' worth of investigation files. Julie Morrison, 27, third-grade teacher at Riverside Elementary, Ray began. Beloved by students, well-liked by colleagues. No enemies, no debts, no reason to disappear. She started dating Sergio Meadows about 7 months before she vanished. Gregory studied Julie's photo. Bright eyes, genuine smile. The kind of person who probably saw the good in everyone, even Sergio. According to witnesses, the relationship was rocky. Sergio was controlling, jealous. Julie's best friend. Ray pulled out another photo, showing a woman in her 30s, Pamela Washburn, said Julie was planning to break up with him. She was scared of how he'd react. Did Pamela talk to police after Julie disappeared? She tried. Gave a statement. Said Julie called her the night before she vanished. Crying. Said Sergio had shown up at her apartment drunk and angry. That was the last communication anyone had with Julie. Ray's jaw tightened. 3 days later, Pamela was in a car accident. Brake lines failed. She survived, but was hospitalized for 2 months. When she recovered, she refused to talk about Julie Morrison. Intimidation, Gregory said. Meadows sent a message. I couldn't prove it. The accident investigation found nothing suspicious. Ray pulled out more documents. Julie's car was found at a rest stop 40 miles outside the city. No signs of struggle, no fingerprints except hers. It's like she just vanished into thin air. Except now we know Sergio or his father had her necklace. Gregory's fingers flew across his laptop keyboard. What about Sergio's alibi? Solid. He was at a charity gala with 300 witnesses the night Julie disappeared. His father's annual fundraiser at the Grandview Hotel. Convenient. Gregory pulled up building schematics on his screen. Wendell owns the Grandview. What time was Julie last seen? Her neighbor saw her arrive home around 7 p.m. The gala started at 8. Gregory calculated distances, timing. Riverside Elementary to her apartment, 15 minutes. Her apartment to the Grandview Hotel, 20 minutes. The rest stop where her car was found, 40 minutes past the city. That's a 90-minute round trip minimum, plus time for whatever happened to Julie. Sergio was photographed at the gala from 8 p.m. to midnight. Time-stamped photos from multiple sources. So he didn't do it personally, Gregory mused. But Daddy has resources. Wendell could have hired someone, had the body moved while Sergio played the perfect son at the charity event. Ray leaned back. That's all speculation. We need proof. Then we find it. Gregory's eyes narrowed. You said Julie's car was found at a rest stop. Was it processed for evidence? Every inch. Nothing useful. Who found it? Ray checked his notes. Anonymous tip called in 2 days after she disappeared. Caller said there was an abandoned vehicle with the driver's door open. Anonymous. Gregory pulled up cellular tower data he'd accessed through his company's law enforcement liaison agreement. What rest stop? Mile marker 47 on Interstate 90. Gregory's fingers danced across the keyboard. I can pull cell tower pings from that area during the relevant time period. See who was there when that call was made. That requires a warrant. That requires a friend at the cellular company who owes me a favor for finding a security vulnerability in their network, Gregory corrected. Completely legal consultation work. What they choose to share during that consultation is their prerogative. Ray smiled grimly. You really did work in intelligence, didn't you? Signals intelligence. I track terrorist cells by their phone patterns. Compared to that, finding a murderer in my own city should be easy. Gregory sent off an encrypted message to his contact. This'll take a few hours. What else do you have? Ray hesitated, then pulled out a final folder. This is off the record. Completely off the record. Inside were photos of a property, a large estate surrounded by woods. Wendell Meadows owns 43 properties in and around the city. This one's special. Inherited from his father, never developed, never sold. It's listed as a family retreat, but according to tax records, no one's claimed to use it in 20 years. Where is it? 15 miles past that rest stop. Deep in the woods, off a private road. Gregory felt his pulse quicken. You think she's there? I think if I were going to make someone disappear, I'd use a property no one knew about, far from the city, where I controlled the access roads. Ray's voice was heavy. But I can't get a warrant. No probable cause. Just a hunch from a detective who's been obsessed with this case for 3 years. So we go without a warrant. That's a legal search. Anything we find would be inadmissible, only if we're looking to prosecute through the courts. Gregory met Ray's eyes. But if we find Julie Morrison's body, if we find proof of what Wendell and Sergio did, then we know the truth. And with the truth, there are other ways to get justice. You're talking about vigilante justice. I'm talking about protecting my daughter from a family of murderers who are trying to take her away from me. Gregory's voice was cold. Wendell Meadows threatened my child to keep his secrets buried. That was his mistake. Ray was quiet for a long moment. If we do this, there's no going back. If we're caught on that property, we won't get caught. Gregory pulled up satellite imagery of the estate. I've infiltrated Taliban compounds with better security than this. A property in the woods? That's a walk in the park. You were a soldier. I'm a cop. I have rules. Rules that let Wendell Meadows buy judges and intimidate witnesses and cover up murder for 3 years. Gregory's voice was sharp. How's that working out? Ray's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Gregory's phone buzzed. His contact at the cellular company had sent preliminary data. He opened it, scanning the cell tower pings from the rest stop on the day Julie's car was found. Here, he said, pointing to a specific entry. Anonymous call made at 2:47 p.m. from a prepaid burner phone. But look at this, he pulled up another record. That same phone pinged off a tower near Wendell Meadows' office building 30 minutes before the call. Could be coincidence. Could be. Gregory pulled up more data. Except this phone was purchased at a convenience store 3 blocks from Meadows Properties headquarters. And look at the purchase time. The morning after Julie disappeared. Ray leaned in. Can you trace who bought it? Store cameras were broken that day. Convenient. Gregory pulled up more cell data. But the phone stayed active for a week after the anonymous call. And during that week, it pinged off towers near Sergio Meadows' apartment 4 times. That's not proof. It's a pattern. Gregory's eyes were hard. Someone bought a burner phone near Wendell's office the morning after Julie vanished. Used it to make an anonymous tip about her abandoned car. Then regularly visited Sergio's apartment. That's an employee, someone close to the family, probably whoever helped dispose of Julie's body. We need to identify that person. Gregory was already typing. Meadows Properties employs 200 people, but only a handful would have the access and loyalty to help with something like this. He pulled up employee records he'd copied when his firm worked on their security systems. Let's narrow it down. Who's been with the company more than 10 years? Who has a connection to Sergio? 3 names appeared on the screen. Gregory cross-referenced them with the cell tower data, looking for patterns. There, he said, highlighting one name. Frederick Wolf, head of security for Meadows Properties for 15 years. Former police officer, fired for excessive force. The cell tower pings match his known addresses and usual routes. Ray studied the data. Wolf was my training officer when I joined the force. Mean son of a bitch. I can believe he'd help Wendell bury a body. Then we talked to him. He won't talk. He's loyal to Wendell. Everyone talks, Gregory said quietly, when they have the right motivation. Chapter 4, Breaking Point. Frederick Wolf lived in a rundown apartment complex on the east side, the kind of place where nobody asked questions and everybody minded their own business. Gregory watched from his car across the street, studying patterns. Wolf left for work at 7:30 a.m., returned at 6 p.m., spent his evenings alone with the flickering blue light of a television visible through his window. 3 days of surveillance had taught Gregory everything he needed to know about Wolf's routine. No family, few friends, a life of quiet desperation and alcohol. The perfect combination of isolation and vulnerability. On the 4th night, Gregory made his move. He'd called in a favor from Marcos Davies, his former military buddy, who now ran a private security firm. Marcos was waiting in a van down the street, ready to jam any outgoing calls from Wolf's apartment if needed. Gregory picked the lock on Wolf's apartment door, a skill he'd learned during his intelligence days, and slipped inside. The apartment smelled like stale beer and microwave dinners. Wolf sat in a recliner, half asleep in front of a baseball game. Gregory moved silently behind him and pressed a gun, unloaded, but Wolf didn't know that, against the back of his head. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Not if you understand. Wolf nodded slowly. You made a phone call 3 years ago about an abandoned car at mile marker 47. I want to know what you did with Julie Morrison's body. Wolf's breathing quickened. I don't know what you're. Gregory pressed the gun harder. I have the cell records, Frederick. I know you bought the burner phone. I know you made the call. I know you work for Wendell Meadows. Last chance to tell the truth. You're making a big mistake, Wolf said, but his voice shook. Meadows is going down. The only question is whether you go down with him or whether you walk away from this. Gregory moved around to face Wolf, keeping the gun trained on him. I was military intelligence. I've interrogated terrorists. You're nothing. So talk. And maybe I let you disappear before everything explodes. Or stay quiet. and spend the rest of your life in prison as an accessory to murder. Wolf's face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. If I talk, I'm dead. Meadows doesn't leave loose ends. If you don't talk, I'll make sure Detective Kelvin Ray knows you're the key witness in the Julie Morrison case. Think Meadows will let you live once the police come knocking? The calculation played across Wolf's face. He was caught between two bad options, and Gregory had made sure there was no way out. What do you want to know? Wolf finally asked. Everything. From the beginning. Wolf slumped in his chair. Sergio killed her. Beat her to death in his apartment during a fight. He called his father in a panic, and Wendell called me. Said there was a problem that needed to disappear. Gregory kept his expression neutral, but rage burned in his chest. Where's the body? The estate. The old Meadows property out past the rest stop. There's a lake on the property, deep. We weighed her down, put her in the water. Wolf's voice was mechanical, reciting facts. Then I drove her car to the rest stop, wiped it clean, called it in from a burner phone. Why keep the necklace? I didn't know about the necklace. Sergio must have taken it before we got there. I guess Wendell found it later, told his daughter to hide it. Wolf looked up at Gregory. That's everything. Now can I? You'll write all this down. Every detail, every name, every date. Sign it. Gregory pulled out a piece of paper and pen. And then you're going to run. I'd suggest Mexico. Meadows will find me. Not if he's too busy dealing with murder charges. Gregory watched as Wolf began to write, with shaking hands. You have one chance to survive this. Take it. 20 minutes later, Gregory left with a signed confession from Frederick Wolf. It wouldn't hold up in court. Coerced testimony, illegally obtained, but it was the truth. And truth had power. He met Marcos outside. How'd it go? We know where Julie Morrison is buried. Gregory's voice was grim. Now we need to prove it. What's the play? Gregory looked at his old friend. Marcos Davies had saved his life in Afghanistan, had been the best man at his wedding, was godfather to Emma. If there was anyone Gregory trusted with what came next, it was him. We're going to that estate tomorrow night. We're going to find Julie's body. And we're going to make sure Wendell Meadows pays for every sin he's ever committed. That's a hell of a plan, Marcos said. I'm in. Chapter 5, Into the Dark. The Meadows estate sat like a wound in the landscape. 70 acres of overgrown forest surrounding a decaying mansion that hadn't been occupied in decades. Gregory and Marcos approached on foot from the eastern side, moving through the woods with the practiced silence of men who'd once hunted insurgents in hostile territory. It was 2 a.m., moonless and dark. Gregory used night vision goggles to navigate, while Marcos carried ground-penetrating radar equipment they'd borrowed from a construction company that owed them a favor. No security cameras, Marcos whispered. Meadows either doesn't care about this place or doesn't want any record of who comes here. Or both. Gregory checked the GPS coordinates. Wolf's confession had included a crude map of where they disposed of Julie's body. The northeast corner of the estate's lake, about 30 feet from shore and 15 feet of water. They reached the lake's edge. In the darkness, it was in black mirror reflecting nothing. Gregory pulled out the portable sonar device he'd acquired and began scanning the area Wolf had indicated. For 20 minutes, they found nothing. Then, there, Gregory pointed to the sonar screen. 15 feet down, 32 feet from shore. There's a large object, weighted down. Marcos studied the reading. Could be anything. A log, old debris, or a body that's been down there for 3 years. Gregory marked the GPS coordinates. We need to bring this to Ray, get proper recovery equipment. A sound in the woods behind them. Footsteps, multiple people, moving fast. We've got company, Marcos hissed. Lights erupted from the trees, flashlights, at least 6 of them. Gregory heard the distinct sound of weapons being drawn. Drop your equipment and put your hands up, a voice shouted. This is private property. You're trespassing. Gregory and Marcos exchanged a glance. They could run, but these men knew the terrain better. Fighting would be worse. Gregory had brought an unloaded gun for intimidation, not actual combat. They raised their hands. The security team, Meadows Properties personnel, Gregory recognized, approached with weapons drawn. The leader was a thick-necked man named Owen Rhodes who Gregory had met during the security consultation 2 years ago. Well, Rhodes's smile was ugly. Gregory Reeves. Mr. Meadows said you might try something stupid. Didn't expect you'd be dumb enough to break onto private property in the middle of the night. We're conducting a search related to a missing persons investigation, Gregory said calmly. Detective Kelvin Ray can verify. Detective Ray has no jurisdiction here. No warrant, no probable cause. Rhodes gestured to his men. Take their equipment. And their phones. Mr. Meadows wants a word. They were marched through the woods to a clearing where 3 black SUVs waited. Wendell Meadows stood beside one, impeccable in a suit despite the hour, flanked by his son Sergio and several lawyers. Gregory. Wendell's voice was disappointed, like a teacher catching a student cheating. Breaking and entering, illegal trespassing, attempting to tamper with private property. These are serious crimes. Murder is more serious, Gregory said. Julie Morrison is at the bottom of that lake. We have sonar readings that confirm it. What you have is equipment that could show anything. A fallen tree, old construction debris, who knows? Wendell smiled. What you don't have is a warrant or any legal authority to be on my property, which means whatever you think you found is inadmissible in any court. Sergio stepped forward, and Gregory saw the violence in his eyes, the same dead look he'd seen in enemy combatants, the kind of man who enjoyed hurting people. We should teach him a lesson about respecting privacy. No, Wendell said sharply. We'll handle this properly. Legally. He turned to his lawyers. File charges for trespassing, breaking and entering, attempted vandalism. I want Gregory arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. You can't cover this up forever, Gregory said. I have evidence. I have witnesses. Detective Ray. Detective Ray is about to be suspended for conducting an illegal investigation based on inadmissible evidence, one of the lawyers said smoothly. We've already filed complaints with the state police and the district attorney. By morning, he'll be lucky if he still has a job. Gregory felt the trap closing around him. Wendell had anticipated every move, prepared counters for everything. The system that should have protected justice was instead being weaponized to protect a murderer. As for your daughter, Wendell continued, my lawyers have filed for emergency custody. Given your increasingly erratic and criminal behavior, I think a judge will agree that Emma is better off with her mother and grandfather. You'll be lucky to get supervised visitation. Red filled Gregory's vision. You're not taking my daughter. I'm protecting my granddaughter from her unstable father. Wendell's smile was pure triumph. You've lost, Gregory. Go home. Accept that some battles can't be won. Rhodes and his team escorted Gregory and Marcos back to their car, confiscating all their equipment. As they drove away, Marcos glanced at his friend. They're going to move the body now. We spooked them. I know. Gregory's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Wendell will have that lake dredged tonight. Julie's remains disposed of somewhere we'll never find them. He'll destroy every piece of evidence. And without a body, we have nothing. So what do we do? Gregory was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was cold and hard. We stopped playing by their rules. Wendell Meadows wants a war. He's about to get one. Chapter 6. The Trap. Gregory spent the next 48 hours in a fury of activity. He'd been outmaneuvered by Wendell's lawyers and political connections, but he wasn't beaten. Not yet. First, he called in every favor he'd accumulated during his years in military intelligence and cybersecurity. His network of contacts spanned law enforcement, media, and tech. People who owed him, people who believed in justice, people who were tired of watching powerful men escape consequences. Second, he analyzed the enemy. Wendell Meadows had spent decades building his empire on connections, intimidation, and money. But every system had weaknesses. Every network had vulnerabilities. Gregory had made a career finding them. He set up a war room in his apartment, laptops running data analysis, phones constantly buzzing with information from his network. Marcos helped coordinate, while Detective Ray, who had indeed been suspended pending investigation, provided unofficial intel. Wendell's moving fast, Ray reported. He's filed restraining orders against you, frozen your access to Emma, and has the DA convinced you're unstable. The custody hearing is in 4 days. He's protecting his flank, Gregory said, studying a web of connections on his screen. But he's exposed somewhere. Everyone is. We just need to find where. Marcos pointed to a file. What about Sergio? He's the weak link. Wolf said Sergio killed Julie. If we can get Sergio to break. Sergio's a psychopath, Ray said. He won't break. He doesn't feel guilt or fear like normal people. Everyone fears something, Gregory murmured. He pulled up Sergio's file, arrests for assault, DUIs, fights at bars. A pattern of violence always protected by daddy's money and lawyers. Sergio's weakness isn't guilt. It's ego. He thinks he's untouchable. How does that help us? Gregory smiled, but it wasn't friendly. We make him think he's right. We make him feel so untouchable that he gets sloppy. Over the next 3 days, Gregory executed a careful campaign of psychological warfare. Anonymous tips to tabloid reporters about Sergio's past violence. Social media posts from burner accounts questioning why certain assault charges had been dropped. Pressure from multiple angles, creating noise and attention. Then, the key move. Gregory had a burner phone send a text to Sergio claiming to be Frederick Wolf, saying he had the original confession and was going to sell it to the media unless Sergio paid him $100,000. The trap was set. On the third night, Gregory watched from a surveillance vehicle as Sergio pulled up to the designated meeting spot, an abandoned warehouse on the industrial waterfront. Sergio came alone, arrogant enough to think he could handle whatever Frederick Wolf wanted. Except Wolf wasn't there. Instead, Gregory stepped out of the shadows. "Hello, Sergio." Sergio's hand moved toward his jacket, probably a gun, but Gregory was faster. He'd brought Marcos and 2 other former military contractors, all armed, all positioned around the warehouse. "I wouldn't," Gregory said. "You're surrounded. This conversation can go easy or hard. Your choice." Sergio's face twisted with rage. "You're dead. When my father hears about this." "Your father is going to hear about a lot of things. Like how you beat Julie Morrison to death and dumped her body in a lake." Gregory pulled out a recording device. Frederick Wolf was very talkative before he left the country. "Want to hear his confession?" He played the audio, Wolf's voice describing in detail how Sergio had called his father in a panic, how they disposed of Julie's body, every incriminating detail. Sergio's face went white. "That's fake. You made that up. DNA from Julie's apartment matched your skin cells under her fingernails. The police have that evidence from the original investigation. They just didn't have enough to connect it to a larger case." Gregory was lying, but Sergio didn't know that. Detective Ray has been building a case for 3 years. All he needed was one piece of corroborating evidence. Now he has it. My father's lawyers. Your father's lawyers can't make evidence disappear when it's already been submitted to state police and the FBI. Another lie, but a believable one. You're going down for murder, Sergio. The only question is whether you take your father with you or whether you take the fall alone. Sergio's eyes darted around, looking for escape. "What do you want?" "I want you to confess. I want you to tell the truth about what you did to Julie Morrison. And I want you to testify that your father helped cover it up." Gregory stepped closer. "Do that, and maybe you get a deal. Life in prison instead of death penalty. Don't do it, and I make sure every piece of evidence points to you as the sole murderer. Your father walks free while you rot. He'll kill me if I talk. He'll throw you under the bus to save himself," Gregory said. "That's what men like Wendell Meadows do. They protect themselves first, family second. How many times has he bailed you out, Sergio? How many times has he cleaned up your messes? And what do you think happens when the mess is too big to clean?" The calculation played across Sergio's face. Fear, anger, and finally, a bitter understanding. "If I confess, I want full immunity," Sergio said. "You're not getting immunity for murder. But I can arrange for testimony that gets you life instead of execution. Take it or leave it." Sergio was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I want it in writing. From the DA. You'll get it." Gregory pulled out his phone and dialed. "Detective Ray? I have someone who wants to talk about Julie Morrison." Chapter 7. The Confession. The state police interrogation room was sparse and cold. Sergio Meadows sat across from Detective Ray and an assistant district attorney named Deborah Wilcox, a sharp woman in her 40s who'd built her career on prosecuting powerful defendants. Gregory watched from behind one-way glass as Sergio began to talk. "It wasn't supposed to happen," Sergio started, his voice flat. "Julie and I were fighting. She wanted to break up, said I was too controlling. I'd been drinking. Things got out of hand." "Define out of hand," Wilcox said. "I hit her. She fell, hit her head on the coffee table." Sergio's hands shook slightly. "There was blood. A lot of blood. I panicked and called my father." "What did your father do?" "He told me to stay calm, not to touch anything. Then he sent Frederick Wolf, his head of security." "Wolf." Sergio swallowed. "Wolf checked Julie. Said she was dead. My father arrived an hour later. And then, they cleaned the apartment. Took her body. My father told me to go to his charity gala, to be seen, to act normal. He said he'd take care of everything. How did he take care of it? Ray asked. Wolf took her body to our family estate. There's a lake. They weighted her down, put her in the water. Sergio looked up. The next day, my father gave me Julie's butterfly necklace. Said he found it in my apartment. Told me to throw it away, but I kept it. Gave it to my sister Candace. Told her to hide it. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted to get caught. Why didn't you come forward before now? Wilcox asked. Because my father owns half this city. Because I was scared. Because. Sergio's voice dropped. Because I knew if I talked, I'd end up like Julie. My father doesn't leave loose ends. The confession continued for another hour, with Sergio providing details only someone present could know. The location in the lake, the type of weights used, the cleaning solution Wolf had used to remove blood from Sergio's apartment. Every piece fit together into a comprehensive picture of murder and cover-up. When it was done, Wilcox looked at Ray. We'll need to verify everything. Forensics team to the lake, subpoena Meadows Properties records, bring in Frederick Wolf if we can find him. He left the country, Ray said. But we have his written confession, and Sergio's testimony corroborates it. Gregory stepped into the room. Wilcox looked up. Mr. Reeves, I understand you're responsible for bringing Sergio in. I'm responsible for making sure my daughter doesn't grow up in a family of murderers, Gregory said. What happens now? Now we build an airtight case. Arrest warrants for Wendell Meadows and anyone else involved in the cover-up. Wilcox's smile was sharp. Your father-in-law is about to learn that even money can't buy immunity from murder. He'll fight, Gregory said. He has judges, politicians. He had judges and politicians when this was a cold case with no evidence. Now we have a confession from his son and a body to recover. That changes everything. Wilcox stood. Go home, Mr. Reeves. Be with your daughter. We'll handle this. But as Gregory left the police station, his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Gregory. Wendell Meadows' voice was ice. I know what you did. I know Sergio talked. But you've made a critical mistake. What's that? You think confessing to a crime is the same as being punished for it. Wendell's laugh was cold. I've been preparing for this possibility for 3 years. By tomorrow morning, Sergio will recant his testimony. He'll claim you threatened him, coerced false statements. My lawyers are already drafting the motion. The police have physical evidence. They have a lake they'll never get permission to search without a warrant I'll block at every level. They have a confession from a man who fled the country. And they have Sergio's word, which he'll recant. Wendell's voice hardened. You've lost, Gregory. Again. And now I'm going to destroy you. Your career, your reputation, your access to your daughter. By the time I'm done, Emma won't even remember your name. The line went dead. Gregory stood on the courthouse steps, rage and frustration warring inside him. Wendell was right. Even with Sergio's confession, a skilled lawyer could tear it apart. The system moved slowly, and Meadows had time to undermine everything. But Gregory hadn't played all his cards yet. Chapter 8. Exposure. I need you to trust me, Gregory said to Detective Ray and Marcos. They were gathered in his apartment that night, planning their next move. What I'm about to do isn't legal. It isn't safe, and it could blow back on all of us. What are you thinking? Ray asked. Gregory pulled up his laptop, showing a web of data, financial records, communications, security footage he'd been collecting for weeks. Wendell Meadows has spent his life building power through connections and fear. But that power only works in the shadows. In the light of day, exposed to public scrutiny, it burns away. You want to leak everything, Marcos said. Not just leak. Detonate. Gregory's fingers flew across the keyboard. I've been building a comprehensive file on Wendell Meadows' criminal enterprise. The bribes to judges, the intimidation of witnesses, the business deals built on fraud. Frederick Wolf's confession. Sergio's confession before his lawyers get to him. Evidence of the body disposal. All of it. If you release that publicly, it could compromise the legal case, Ray warned. There won't be a legal case. Not one that works. Gregory met Ray's eyes. Wendell's already moving to undermine Sergio's testimony. By next week, our star witness will have recanted and claimed coercion. The DA will lose her leverage. Wendell will walk. So what's your play? I send everything to every major news outlet. Every journalist who's ever covered corruption, every social media platform and website I can find. Simultaneously, before Wendell can stop it, Gregory pulled up a prepared release schedule. 5 minutes from now, if I press this button, the entire truth about Wendell Meadows goes public. Every crime, every cover-up, every dirty secret. That's vigilante justice, Ray said quietly. That's the only justice available when the system is rigged. Gregory's voice was hard. Wendell Meadows has bought and corrupted every official channel. So we go around them. Court of public opinion. Let the whole world see who he really is. Ray was quiet for a long moment. As a cop, even a suspended one, this violated everything he'd been trained to do. But as a man who'd watched Meadows escape justice for 3 years, who'd seen good people intimidated and hurt. Do it, Ray said. Gregory pressed the button. The release was timed perfectly. Sunday evening, 8 p.m., when news outlets were preparing their Monday morning stories. The data dump hit email inboxes of 200 journalists simultaneously. Within 10 minutes, the first articles started appearing online. Within an hour, it was trending on every social media platform. Real estate mogul Wendell Meadows implicated in cover-up of son's murder. Exclusive. Confession reveals body disposal of missing teacher Julie Morrison. Corruption scandal. How Meadows' family bought silence for 3 years. Gregory watched the news cycle explode from his laptop. Every outlet picked up the story. The confession documents were verified as authentic. Photographs of the butterfly necklace, timeline of events, witness statements, all laid out in meticulous detail. His phone rang constantly, journalists wanting confirmation, sources wanting to add information, people he'd helped over the years offering support. Gregory ignored them all, watching instead for one specific response. It came at 9:47 p.m. Wendell Meadows appeared on television, flanked by lawyers, trying to control the narrative. These allegations are completely false, spread by a disturbed individual with a vendetta against my family, Wendell said smoothly. My attorneys are pursuing criminal charges against Gregory Reeves for defamation, harassment, But the reporters weren't buying it. They'd seen the evidence, the confessions, the documented cover-up. Mr. Meadows, did your son kill Julie Morrison? Did you help dispose of her body? What about the bribes to Judge Gustavo Mooney to suppress the investigation? Is it true you threatened the victim's best friend after she talked to police? Wendell's composure cracked. For the first time in his life, he couldn't control the room. His lawyers tried to end the press conference, but the damage was done. The emperor had no clothes, and everyone could see it. By midnight, the state attorney general announced a special investigation into the Meadows family. The FBI opened a corruption probe. 3 judges Wendell had bribed suddenly announced their retirement. Politicians scrambled to distance themselves from the Meadows name. The empire was crumbling. Chapter 9, Justice. 1 week later, state police forensic divers recovered Julie Morrison's remains from the lake on the Meadows estate. Her body had been weighted down exactly where Sergio and Wolf's confessions indicated. Dental records confirmed her identity. After 3 years, Julie was finally found. Sergio Meadows was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. He tried to recant his confession as Wendell had planned, but the physical evidence corroborated every detail. His lawyers negotiated a plea deal, life in prison without parole in exchange for testifying against his father. Wendell Meadows was arrested on charges of accessory to murder, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. Frederick Wolf was extradited from Mexico to face similar charges. 3 judges who'd taken bribes were indicted. A state senator resigned in disgrace. The trial was the biggest news story in a decade. Gregory sat in the courtroom every day, watching Wendell's expensive lawyers try to spin and deflect. But the evidence was overwhelming. Sergio's testimony, Wolf's confession, the recovered body, the forensic evidence from Sergio's apartment, all of it pointed to one conclusion. Guilty. Wendell Meadows, the man who'd built an empire on corruption and intimidation, was sentenced to 25 years in prison for his role in covering up his son's crime. At 72 years old, it was effectively a life sentence. As the verdict was read, Gregory watched Wendell's face. The old man showed no emotion, but his eyes found Gregory in the courtroom. There was hatred there, and something else, respect, perhaps, or recognition. Gregory had beaten him at his own game. After the trial, Gregory met with Candace for the first time since the hospital. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her father was in prison. Her Her brother would die in a cell. Her family's empire had collapsed. I didn't know, she said quietly. About Julie, about what they did. I swear I didn't know until my father gave me that necklace. But you helped hide it, Gregory said. You chose them over the truth. I was scared. You don't understand what it's like to grow up in that family, with that kind of pressure. I understand you made a choice. And our daughter almost paid the price for it. Candace's eyes filled with tears. What happens now? To us? Gregory had thought about this question for weeks. Part of him wanted to walk away, to take Emma and never look back. But he remembered the woman he'd married, before Wendell's poison had infected everything. He remembered why he'd loved her. You're going to therapy, Gregory said. Real therapy, with someone who specializes in family trauma. You're going to confront what your father and brother did, and your role in it. You're going to rebuild yourself as someone Emma can be proud of. And if I do all that, then maybe, eventually, we can figure out how to co-parent our daughter. Not as husband and wife, that's over. But as two people who both love Emma and want her to grow up healthy and safe. Candace nodded, wiping her eyes. I'll do it. Whatever it takes. 2 months later, Gregory stood in his new apartment, smaller than the house he'd shared with Candace, but it was his. Emma sat on the floor, playing with her toys. She was resilient in the way children are, already bouncing back from the trauma of the past months. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Emma asked. Sure, princess. Whatever you want. As they walked to the ice cream shop, Emma's hand in his, Gregory felt something he hadn't felt in months. Peace. The fight was over. Justice had been served. His daughter was safe. His phone buzzed. A message from Marcos. Coffee tomorrow? Got a new case that needs your skills. Gregory smiled. He'd spent years in military intelligence, hunting bad guys in foreign countries. But the real enemies were here, hiding behind money and power and corrupt systems. He'd found his purpose, using his skills to expose them, to bring light to darkness, to protect the innocent. He typed back, I'm in. Emma looked up at him. Who was that? Just a friend, sweetheart. Nothing to worry about. They got their ice cream and sat in the park, watching the sunset. Somewhere across the city, Wendell Meadows sat in a prison cell, his empire ashes. Sergio would spend his life behind bars. Julie Morrison's family finally had closure and justice. And Gregory Reeves, the man they tried to break, had won. Not through the system. Not by following rules that protected the guilty. But by being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than his enemies. By understanding that sometimes justice required operating in the shadows, using tools the law couldn't touch. He was good at it. And there were plenty more Wendell Meadowses in the world. Emma tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, you're smiling. What are you thinking about? Gregory ruffled her hair. Just thinking about the future, princess. I think it's going to be pretty good. And for the first time in months, he believed it. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.